Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today's vlog is an exciting one because it involves someone random from YouTube that asks me questions about startup stuff. So instead of just responding to his email, I'm gonna make a video about responding to his questions because I think they're really good questions and I figured it could make an interesting vlog. So without further ado, Lincoln, thank you for sending over the email. Here are the questions that he asked and we'll go through them line by line. So the first one he asked was, during the period of time when you didn't have a co-founder, what did you focus on building regarding July, and how did you eventually find your current co-founder? So I actually just made a video about this like 3 days ago, but currently I am a solo founder. I had started July with a guy named Kyle. We sort of had that opposing skill set. I actually made multiple videos on this, so I'll link those in the comments. But the first part of that question, which is what did you focus on building when you didn't have a co-founder? Basically, to run back through sort of the advice that I got when we first took on funding, which was right after I lost Kyle as a co-founder. Again, he's fine. It just wasn't the right fit for him. Basically, I sat down our pre-seed investors and asked them, what is it gonna take for us to get to a sort of a venture-backed seed round? And the 3 points of feedback they gave us were, you're gonna need a technical co-founder or an engineer, someone who actually build the product you're trying to do beyond the no-code tool that you've built yourself. You're gonna need a couple unaffiliated paying users that are in love with your product. And you're also gonna need a sexy and functioning MVP, again, something that you can showcase exactly what it is that you're doing. So that's what I focused on for those 6 months after I sort of was on my own. It was finding that key person to be that technical lead, building the initial prototype and the product, as well as trying to get paying customers to prove the traction for the product that we were building. So that's the answer to question 1. Question 2 is, how did you approach validating the problem before committing to full development? Did you talk to multiple agencies/creators? I think the nature of this question is a little bit more along the lines of like, how do you decide what to build a startup around? And I think, at least in my experience or the friends that I have that are very, very talented founders, they're never searching for a problem to solve. They've experienced the problem internally, have a unique perspective, a unique understanding, have a unique solution, and then they sort of tackle it that way. So I guess the founder market fit on that front is that they understand the problem deeply and then they're able to solve it for themselves and then for others. And so the same was the case for us, where basically I had built a solution to help solve the problems that I was facing, and that's what spun out into July, and that's usually what leads to more successful startups, in my opinion. Third question was, what did the very first version of July look like? Was it no code, coded by you, or outsourced/contracted? Great question. You kind of have to start with whatever tools you have at your disposal when you're first getting started. So for us, we didn't have an engineering super technical person on our team. So Kyle and I started the original prototype, building it on a no-code tool called Bubble, which is a very cool product. I think it's probably far better now than it was multiple years ago. Also, like, AI didn't exist, so I'm sure you can just vibe code whatever you want now. But basically, we built it on Bubble. Kyle helped build a lot of it, and then when he left, I took it over and I ended up bringing on a contractor, so it was just the two of us. His name is Ranjit. We're actually very good friends now. We still talk on a bi-weekly basis. We worked together for about, I don't know, maybe 6 to 9 months after that. I actually ended up at his wedding in India over Christmas break, which was a freaking blast. So highly recommend going down that route and trying to be as scrappy as possible. Fourth question is, what made you decide to raise a seed round early, and were there any parts of your story that investors really latched onto? I think this is kind of a two-parter. The sense of like, why did we decide to raise a seed round early? So when we first started the company, I drained my savings account and put everything I had into the business, which was dumb because I had to pay taxes on the money twice when I paid myself as a contractor. But basically, we only had a certain amount of runway in order to build this product and see the vision come to life, and we were building a software product, so we needed to raise funding to sort of bring on and expand the team and sort of see that through. So that was the reason as to why. Now I think bootstrapped companies are awesome, and I think if you can rip a bootstrap company, you should. But some specific businesses require venture dollars, and it's just the nature of the beast. And then the second piece of that is, were there any parts of the story that investors really latched onto? And I should probably make an entire video of like what it looks like and the questions that are asked on funding calls and how to answer them. I've written some LinkedIn posts about it. But I think the most important things that folks look at from an investor perspective when they're asking you questions is, why is this a venture backable idea? So why is it just like a huge market? Why is it a huge business opportunity? What are you going to take on? As well as, why are you the people to do it at the earliest stage, right? Because your traction is going to be kind of minimal, but at that point it's like, why do you have founder market fit? Why are you the perfect person to solve that problem? So I guess my assumption is the parts of my story that were related to building this product for myself, and then that's what spun out into sort of my friends using it, and then it spun out into more folks using it, was probably a very compelling piece. And if people find this video interesting, then I can go much deeper into that in the next one with the exact responses we used for those questions while we were fundraising. Fifth question was, what did you prioritize when first starting July? What do you think is the most important thing to focus on when starting? I think there's a great quote, which is like, first time founders focus on product, second time founders focus on distribution. And I think when we were first starting July, all we focused on was product. We had to like prove that we could build exactly what we said we could build and that it was gonna be exciting. And I think even now my like heart really wants to focus on product because it is the most exciting piece in my opinion. But I think the most important thing you can do is sell the product. And so distribution, getting sales, proving traction, spending as much time as possible on that piece is gonna be the most important thing as it comes to like proving that the idea is actually validated, because anyone can kind of build anything, especially now with the barriers of entry being so much lower to actually building product. Sales almost becomes far more important when trying to build something huge. So I would focus on that. Just my 2 cents, that's what I focus on now. And then the last question he asked was, how do you decide to keep going versus pivot or iterate? And I think so many people would answer this question very differently. I think in my experience, you kind of know when things are working and you kind of know when things aren't working. And in the beginning, nothing really does work. So it's based on your conviction and sort of what you see as the future and what your vision is. But as you continue to get more traction and get more progress, you should try and sort of validate your products as quickly as possible. I think that relates to the last question of focusing on sales and distribution. It's because it's a much easier way to validate what problems are actually working or what solutions are actually working. And that can help you make that decision on whether or not to stay on something or to pivot onto something else. All right, so Lincoln, thank you for sending over that email. I greatly appreciate it. That was an exciting thing to do. If anybody else has questions or wants my takes on things, I'm sure they're not that great, but I am here to give them. So appreciate you sending through that email, Lincoln, and hopefully these answers were helpful for other people as well. Thanks so much for watching. We will see you tomorrow.